Whoa! Hello, everybody. Well, that was a little bit of a technical roller coaster.
That was a fucking nightmare. Fucking Discord choosing now of all times to apply the update.
Oh, Jesus. Do you know what? It's never not a thrill doing these things. The technology, it makes
Darren's
it
already
all
complaining about the poll.
Oh, what's it?
It's so polar. He wants it up to the individual as an option.
Well, I'll be honest. The poll in the chat. Feel free to yes, no, or don't respond. In fact, do you know what? Shall we appease Darren? And add an option. Can I add an option at this point? No, all I can do is end the poll. So it looks like now I've set it in stone. Let's shout out everybody in chat. Hello, Crispin. Hello, Cheeseby. Hello, Darren. Good to see you guys tonight. Hello, Orinoco.
Tim was here briefly,
yes,
but fucked off for a game.
Tim's playing games again. Fucking rude, I tell you, rude.
Since when did that man on the internet get friends? I
know. I'm not having it. I'm not having it.
You have a fucking word, mate. You have a word.
So yeah, the poll in the chat. Feel free to have your say. It is a little bit polar, but it's a polarizing topic. Just saying.
It's bipolar.
Oh God! Right, we have got a busy stream tonight. My little browser with all of the news is absolutely chocker with tabs, so we've got a ton to get through.
I'm glad I didn't add any news then. Fuck me, if you filled it on your own.
No, some of it's your stuff, son. Right, anyway.
Don't you come around these parts blaming me?
Actual games with real people. What heresy is this? Yes, actual games with real people and real miniatures.
None of these newfangled board game business around here in these parts.
Well, especially not Assassin's Creed, because that's never going to be fucking painted.
No, exactly. Exactly.
Right. Hello, everybody. If you're joining us later on YouTube, I'll give you a quick rundown of what we're going to be doing over the next couple of hours. Everybody here in the chat will no doubt know. So David and I will talk about what we're going to be hobbying on between chatting nonsense and cobblers. We will then have a quick discussion about what we got up to on Monday night, which reminds me I need to fix the slideshow, which will no doubt cause the audio to glitch as my PC spazzes out as I'm trying to do too many things at once. Yes, we will get to it, Crispin. Hold on. Hold
the powder.
Not yet, mate, but I can't see me not doing, in all fairness. So, yes, we will talk about what we did at club on Monday night. Then we will chat about some news, which there is a ton of. And then about 9 o'clock, we will tackle the somewhat controversial and polarizing issue of painted versus grey plastic on the old tabletop. Something that does divide the community a bit. And before I get too into this, I notice in my camera that my living room door is open. I'm going to shut it, or my wife will be sticking her head around and going, "Will you shut up?" So, bear with me a second.
I'm experimenting with Vallejo Express colour this evening.
Right, mate. So, hobby. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first. I'm just going to talk about Express colour because I'm using the white and it's currently not white and I don't like it.
Yeah, you don't like it. Right.
I don't like it.
Here is what I will be hobbying on tonight.
Some of you
may recognise Assassin's Creed. So, David and I decided to enter the same, Ezio from the Assassin's Creed board game for this. months.
I've done nothing on him yet, so I might get him out in a minute.
Yeah, that's true. Darren has shiny metal, not grey plastic. Fair dues, Darren. So we're going to be entering the same model for the painting competition at our local game club this week. And I've made a start on mine. Done a little bit of an airbrush zenithal, and I'm going to be getting some base colours down on this guy. This was a gift from David, because I believe this was a Kickstarter exclusive.
It was a Kickstarter exclusive, and
So,
I purposefully bought 2 of the fuckers
Yeah.
because you missed out on the Kickstarter.
But excellent model, great pose. There's a little bit of mould slip, which is really visible on his back leg, but you know, with these PVC miniatures, you just have to take how it goes. I've cleaned it up as best I can with a scalpel, and it'll look great, I'm sure. So that's what I'm up to, mate. What about you tonight?
I'm being insane and possibly doing some of my spring clean project.
Okay, right. So, do you want to just go through it? I mean, everybody in the audience here knows what that is because they're all table OTTers, but obviously people on YouTube may not know.
We are, for the OTT Spring Clean project, painting... Is Orinoco in chat? Because Orinoco, I did give you a read of your Assassin's Creed. Not Assassin's Creed, League of Infamy. And very, very commended, very good, very well done, sir. But we are speed painting. Oh dear, very bendy spear.
Did Orinoco? You've put a project up, has it?
One. Yes.
Oh, you should have said, mate. We could have shown Orinoco's work.
Orinoco has done a project, and then the other thing is Jack, my friendly neighbourhood Vallejo dealer, has given me this to borrow. Let's try.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Jack's a guy from our local gaming club who's got a real thing for paint. He's got them all: Chimera, flipping Pro Acryl. So David thought he'd give these a swing.
That is not white. That is apparently the white one, and it's very grey.
Yeah, I'll be honest. The not Mantic. The Army Painter one is the same, mate. With these white speed paints, essentially they just apply a light grey shade.
No, Darren, they are League of Infamy minis, getting my hobby space ready for the Dungeon Saga full fucking pledge god tier thing, because as soon as stream is finished this evening, I'm going to put money on that. It's an expensive month for this month, because I've been looking at Maladum as well, and to add insult to injury, there was another one that I was speaking to Paul about earlier today.
Yeah, that's in the news. I've got it there. Tell you what, Darren, those Time Bandit miniatures are amazing. If I had a spare, I'm a bit like David, I'm going to be having a tight month, but if I have a spare 70 odd quid, buying the whole set of those miniatures is a massive nostalgia kick, which I will be probably considering. Yeah, so Crispin backed Dungeon Saga, but passed on Maladum. I'll go back to the main scene if you're finished on your desktop, mate.
Yeah, I'm finished. So
come on, Crispin. Why did you
pass on Maladum?
I tell you what. Let's go to we're getting into the news straight away. Let's go to the news page, and we'll bring up Maladum. Here we go. So the Kickstarter's live. 6 days to go.
Left.
So obviously Crispin, or because of Ben, he's decided to back the Dungeon Saga, but not the Maladum. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, they're very similar premises. You've got effectively a campaign-based tabletop dungeon crawler. I would say that Maladum's a more granular, sophisticated rule set. Dungeon Saga's probably more accessible for new or casual hobbyists. But so Crispin owns some of the battle system's terrain, but has very rarely used it. He prefers Mantic's games, and he likes the minis from Mantic. That's fair. That is fair do, sir. I was shocked. I thought I called it last week and was completely wrong. Feel free to call me out in the comments below. I thought Maladon would be way more expensive than it is. It's a really cheap Kickstarter for what you're getting. With Maladon, I would say that if you were to ask me the TLDR version, what's the differences between these two? Here would be my elevator pitch, if you like. Maladon, the majority of what you're paying for is the terrain. The terrain is beautiful.
And that neoprene mat.
Pre-painted cardboard terrain. The setup time is a little bit clunky on it. I've used some of it from their other Kickstarters, but you can't argue with the way it looks when it goes together. You're not getting as many miniatures, so your money is primarily buying you the terrain, and as David says, the gorgeous mat to put it all on.
Because it is a 2x2 neoprene mat, and they ain't cheap.
And for everything, which is the full terrain set and the core game, it's 175 of your English pounds, which is a little bit more expensive. But I don't think egregiously so. A little bit more expensive than Dungeon Saga. So Dungeon Saga, you are getting primarily miniatures, which this display shows clearly. And in fact, if you sort of go for the all-in pledge, 129 of your English pounds, you get all of the plastic furniture to upgrade the cardboard tokens.
3 expansions
in the board game, the sort of core game, if you like. So you are getting much more plastic for your cash on the Dungeon Saga front. I did, as I've also said, in terms of rules, Maladon is based around the core space system. It's quite granular. There's a lot going on. It's got custom dice. The
Magic's done quite nicely.
Yeah, Magic is based around the sort of same dice mechanic, but you get like spell sheets and stuff like that. The amount of equipment and upgrades is a lot more in depth in Maladon. It's quite light touch in Dungeon Saga Origins. Mantic have said in videos that they will be exploring the sort of level advancement and sort of like that side of it more in expansion products, but the core offering is quite basic in terms of its mechanics and its approach. So yeah, essentially Dungeon Saga for the miniatures, Maladon for the terrain, and the slightly grittier gaming experience. I would think that's fair. I don't know what you guys would say.
I would say that is a fair assumption.
Yeah, I did think that. Darren says that the plastic terrain in the Dungeon Saga Kickstarter is essentially just rebadged terrain crate kit.
Yes, it is, but again, every little helps, isn't it?
Yeah.
And again, as we said last week when we were discussing this, Dungeon Saga, even if you're not buying it for Dungeon Saga and you're buying it for fucking D&D, it makes perfect sense too.
To be fair, though, there are all sorts of applications. The terrain, both the terrain and the miniatures, even the tiles in Dungeon Saga, you can easily put them into Dungeons and Dragons. You can easily repurpose a lot of the assets. I mean, I was looking at the furniture and all that. I don't own a lot of the Mantic terrain crates, and I was looking at the furniture in the Dungeon Saga Kickstarter, thinking they'd be great for some of the Frostgrave missions. Like all the bookcases for the Hidden Library one and all sorts of things. So you know, you're when you look at these sort of Kickstarters, they're not like board games.
It's not. Yeah, it's not.
They very much are hobby project Kickstarters. You're buying a ton of assets, and if you can get mileage out of the core games, of course, but there's much more here for your money, you know.
Then
and if you've
initially
got
just meets the eye.
yeah, a bit of lateral thinking. I mean, we were talking in our club Discord server earlier in the week, and I was chatting to Luke, and he mentioned something. We were talking about this core space or kill team, and I suddenly had this idea: kill team, but on the core space terrain. That would just be amazing.
Yes.
So, yeah, it is. I mean, to be fair, 2 battle systems, they have refined their design of this over about 3 iterations now. I backed the original Fantasy Kickstarter, and it isn't an insignificant amount of time to even build a dense 2x2. You know, you want to be putting 20 minutes to set it all up and tear it all down with clips and cardboard and stuff. So, as I say, you pay your money, you take your choice. If you need a ton of generic fantasy role-playing style miniatures, Dungeon Saga's probably your bag. If you've got more miniatures than you know what to do with already, Maladam's terrains maybe something to look at. And as this picture demonstrates perfectly, I've got on screen, it works as a multi-level terrain set so easily. It's so slick the way that it goes together. So yeah, that's going to make April an expensive month. I still haven't decided yet whether I'm backing both of them. I want to back
backing.
Go on,
the
David.
News. Shall we pull up? What is it? DIE?
Well, shall we move on to another item? I've got tabs for days here, so we've talked about those 2. Let's talk about this one because it leans into what you were talking about a minute ago.
Divide et Impera.
So, where is it? So,
where is Divide
David
et Impera?
messaged me earlier. I'd never heard of this. So, there's a board game that was kickstarted originally in 2020 called Divide et Impera. This is a review by Board Game Co. that I managed to find on YouTube. I think you sent me the link.
Yeah, I found it and linked to it, didn't I?
And you said apparently this is coming back?
Yeah, it's coming back. So they're reprinting it.
Okay.
They've got some new expansions coming for it.
Okay.
It came recommended on my fucking Facebook feed. There's a GameFound link, and I really like the look of the miniatures.
Oh, it's on GameFound, is it?
Yes.
You didn't say. I couldn't find it on Kickstarter. That explains it.
It's on GameFound.
Okay.
Clicked on it, had a look into it, watched a couple of reviews on it. It kind of looks really up my jam.
Okay.
Asymmetrical area of control. There's no confrontation in this game, like fighting physically, but obviously you can make your life difficult for your opponents. Going on what this review on the YouTubes has said, it's a really nice game. It's a really nice looking game. You get about 70 miniatures for about €140. But you also get a shit ton of cardboard and other stuff. I'm considering it because, as me and Paul have said, the first Monday of every month at our local club is our board gaming evening. We're looking to expand our collections, bring new things, and similar to our hobby taste, is do something different every month, whether that be Everdell, Arkham Horror, Nemesis, League of Infamy, Dungeon Saga. That's just 5 off the top of our head that we both own and we can both play regularly. It's a game, plays apparently in about 90 minutes, so in theory, Paul, we could get 2 in a club session, which I think is fucking amazing.
Yep.
And all in all, It's set in a futuristic post-apocalypse world where basically everything's frozen over. It's set in London. The board itself is layered cardboard. Okay, not necessarily best, but for longevity purposes, probably actually really good versus having 3D freestanding shits to jump up and down on top of with your miniatures. Each of the factions plays uniquely as well. So it's
Here's a
quite
shot of the board. This is the old edition, I think.
Quite a lot to master and ruminate on while you're playing the game. Did you watch that video?
I watched about 2/3 of it. I'll be honest, I wasn't really taken with this guy's description of the game loop. Yeah. He did. To be fair, it didn't make a lot of sense. It seems very busy. It's like a lot of these multi-layered board games. I think it'd probably make more sense after you've played it a couple of times. But essentially, he said it's an area control board game with different factions, and it didn't hit me as something that I would immediately jump on. But not every game is for every player. But I mean, as I say, it's definitely piqued your interest, has it, mate?
Yes, it has.
So, and what is it? An all-in pledge of 140 euros?
No, that is not the all-in pledge, unfortunately.
Oh my god, that's just core game, is it?
So that's the leader pledge. That gives you a core box and an expansion.
Right.
For 139 euros.
Okay.
The all-in pledge.
Yeah.
Is 279 euros.
Jeez Louise.
Includes the core box, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 expansions, 2 further miniatures, a PVC resource pack, and a candy booster pack.
Okay.
So you do get a lot for your
money. A lot
money.
more expansions and that for it.
Yeah, you get 5 expansions versus 1 expansion.
And how long's that? Is that a long project on GameFound, or is it quite a quick one?
I'm not entirely sure how fucking GameFound works.
Oh, okay.
Bollocks. It reached its goal in 2 hours and 18 minutes. It's 280% funded with 8 days left.
8 days. So there's not long left, people. So yeah, check it. It's Divide et Impera, which is Latin IMPERA. If you're interested on GameFound, sometime in the next 8 days. Excellent.
I mean, the miniatures do look really nice. That was the other thing that piqued my interest.
To be fair, having not seen the thing on GameFound, because the problem is when you Google Divide et Impera, that title brings up
Total War 2 mod.
Correct. And that was what I couldn't find the board game through that search. So I was struggling. I only found the original one. The original Kickstarter campaign was 2020 for this edition, I think it was. So yeah. Now let's come back to Vallejo Express Color. So obviously David's borrowed these Express Color. Yeah, do you know what, Darren? I would totally echo that. With Kickstarter and any crowdfunding platform, when these companies, very rarely, certainly in the miniatures side of things, very rarely, and really the board game side now, very rarely is something one chance to get, because when they come back with the inevitable expansion, second edition, whatever,
look at fucking Everdell.
Well, the one that, Everdell's a great example. Also, Batman Chronicles of Arkham, or whatever the hell it was called, Gotham City Chronicles, that I backed. Whenever they launch a new wave, when you get in the pledge manager at the end, I guarantee you all of the previous campaigns will be there in the pledge manager for everybody who missed the first time.
Well,
They are not going
to. TT did it with their fucking halfling army that they did recently as well,
Yep.
didn't they?
Everybody does it. So don't worry. Don't go spending your money because you've got fear that you'll miss on something important.
This isn't a GW product.
Yeah. Most of these companies will not leave money on the table. It's like Assassin's Creed that's coming up for a new expansion. I'm going to say it here now on the internet to be proved wrong, but I'm guaranteeing Triton Noir in the Pledge Manager will have all of the stuff from the first campaign that you can click and add on, and they'll just get it reprinted to order based on what the campaign does. It's now built into the DNA of the way these platforms work, so don't stress yourself out.
Don't panic.
Now, I don't know if you've seen this video. Let's get back to the news. So this video is by Sonic Sledgehammer Studio.
Yeah, I watched that earlier, just before I watched the DEI review.
Now, I'm going to apologise to this guy because I don't know if he's a Kiwi or an Oz. He's got that accent, so he's from.
Do you want to know the best thing?
Yeah.
I think he's based in the UK because he mentioned Exit 23 Games, the UK stockist of Turbo Dog paints.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yes.
So he's definitely got a Southern Hemisphere accent. So I'm sure he must be from there originally. Either that or I'm completely wrong on that. But he's done this video where he basically has a play with Express. Now, I've watched quite a few of these videos. Everybody who's been and watched us before knows that I'm a massive fan of the Army Painter speed paints, which I noticed Darren's bought. Did I get that? See that flip by in the chat, Darren? That you're getting the
Gen 2
mega set. And so obviously when Express Colour, and we are massive model colour fans, aren't we, mate?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. So we thought I checked it out, and a lot of the videos I saw, the Express Colour didn't look very vibe. Oh, it's crisping. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah. So the Express Colour didn't look very vibrant or intense, and a lot of the people said in the reviews I watched initially, it needs a couple of coats.
2 coats.
And I was like, well, what the fuck? I don't want to be doing 2 coats of a speed paint product. It's not very speedy then, is it? I may as well, stick to a traditional paint method. But then I saw this video and I was like, well, there's nothing wrong with the colour intensity on these. And these are all one and done, slap it on. So I'm definitely rethinking my position. The guardsman figure in the front right, he did apply, I think it was some Vallejo wash products.
Umber wash from Vallejo and a flesh wash on the face.
So he applied some washes after the fact.
And he applied some metallics.
And obviously the metallics, I think, are GW? Iron Skull or something, whatever it's called. You guys will probably know better than me. But hell's teeth. I said to David, if he can get this sort of colour intensity out of them, I'm rethinking. I may very well look at them, because these models look beautiful. The shading effect is subtle, but it's definitely there. You can't say it's not there. I mean, look at the panel lines on that Marine. Just his shoulder pad there and the backpack. The definition's definitely there. So,
right, my first impressions in the first half hour of using Express.
Yes.
Drying time leaves a little to be desired.
The drying time, what? As in, it's very long.
Yes.
That is by design.
It's quite a while.
Yes.
The shading characteristics seem to be going okay.
Good.
that white now actually looks a lot better now I've let it dry, because it was very grey before. It has pulled away a lot, and we will go back down to my camera later when it's fully dry.
Yeah.
Versus contrast currently, obviously, I've just used a white, I've just used a black. The black leaves a little to be desired, because it's actually quite a green, blue-green black. It's not a jet black.
Army Painters has got the same problem. It's very green.
Like fucking most things, leaves again a little to be desired, because it's actually quite grey. But we're going to go into some other colours in a minute.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which ones. We'll find out.
Cool. It's the colour intensity thing that I'm wary of. Because again, I want to just slap it on and call it a day. If I need to put 2 or 3 coats down, it's like, what? Why? What other things did we see on the internet? Shall we talk about 10th edition? No, because nobody's talking about Warhammer 10th, 40k 10th edition.
No, why would anyone want to talk about Warhammer 10th edition 40k? And the fact that things are actually quite exciting. The
internet's resident pessimist and serial moaner, Discourse Miniatures, who I quite like. I'm being a bit tongue-in-cheek there. Obviously posted a video about 10th, because why not? Games Workshop proved everyone wrong. And she does sort of gives them a backhanded compliment for the changes to 10th. And I think, in all fairness to Games Workshop, everybody else is doing pretty much the same, which is like, yeah, well done, sir. Yeah, it looks good now. Let's see how it goes. But she made a great point in this video of hers. It's like she was saying, she was quoting bits from the original press release, like your entire army rules will be condensed to one side of A4. And she sort of went, sounds familiar, because obviously she's a massive one-page rules advocate. And then she was discussing the new morale rules, and then she brought this up from the one-page rules but the one-page rule set, and it's this looks familiar. But do you know what? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. One-page rules did a really, really good job of streamlining the whole tabletop experience.
Yes, they did.
This is looking at their rules aside from their miniatures, and for when. Yeah, I get it, Darren. She's not for everyone. She
can be very salty.
The thing is as well, bless her, I find the record of beating the crap out of Games Workshop with a big stick, I get tired of it very quickly.
It wears thin.
But she's a personality, love her or hate her. She's part of the YouTube zeitgeist, certainly in our hobby. And
oh wow, this fucking colour, dude.
What? Oh, you'll show us later.
Snake green.
As I say, that's worth a watch. It's quite entertaining. Now then, again, do you know what I love? I love when YouTubers make sort of pledges but then deliver. Now, in his New Year video, and we talked about this on stream, Miniac said that he was going to make a determined effort to represent non-Games Workshop products, because he enjoys non-Games Workshop games more. Song of Ice and Fire is his big passion, I think, in terms of playing and miniatures at the minute. But he's organised with some other content producers. I know Eons of Battle is involved in this, but he did this sort of teaser video, and they're calling it Other Games April. OGA is the hashtag. And basically, they're going to make video content for the whole of April, featuring as many different miniature lines, so they're going to cover a lot of these small boutique companies. I don't know if they're going to go to the old school metals like you like, Darren, or whether it'll be all these high-end resin companies. But they're going to do that. They're going to cover other games, other systems. And I think it's brilliant. Do you know what I mean?
It's nice to see other people getting the spotlight.
That exactly. Do you know what I mean? This hobby is getting more and more broad and more expansive I was going to say every year, but almost on a monthly basis, something will come out. And the online narrative and the social media narrative is just monopolized by the edifice that is Games Workshop. And it's great to see these people who've got like hundreds of thousands of subscribers making content that gives some of the limelight to these other companies. I am sure that a lot of them will get reduced views, reduced clicks. It won't be helpful at all to their earnings and their bottom line. But do you know what? At least they're using their sort of voice, like their internet influence to do some good. I think it's brilliant. So watch this space, everybody. Other Games April. I don't know, as I say, I know that Miniac's involved. I know Eons of Battle is involved. But as to who else, I don't know at this point. Hopefully it'll be other content creators as well. But it's great. I think it's fantastic news. Starly, I don't know if did you see this, Crispin? This is very much relevant to what you did. Starly did a quite in-depth review of the Speedpaint 2.0. I do like his review videos. He's quite thorough. He's a very, very competent artist and painter.
It was always very thorough when it Taylor painters and doing the written reviews.
Yeah. He's.
I'm really happy he's doing video content as well now.
It's quite interesting. He basically says to be honest, the only thing that Starley's not impressed with was the metallics. He noticed some reactivation problems. He says quite openly at the end of his review, they're probably a product he'll never use because he's not really had an issue with the metallics processes and paints that he currently uses, and he doesn't see really a role for them in his style. But he generally would give the range a thumbs up, and he thinks Army Painter have improved on their first generation significantly. So yeah, great video. If you want to sort of like see exactly what's good, not so good in the Army Painter Speed Paint 2.0 range.
Because when is release date for them?
I think it's June. Is that right, Crispin? Are the pre-orders coming in June? Crispin will let us know. Oh, Christ. It must be April then. Oh, my God. See, that's another thing. That's another expense. April's going to absolutely bankrupt me. It must be April then, Crispin, the release date. For some reason, I thought it was June, bizarrely enough.
It was ages away,
but it obviously isn't. Time flies when you're having fun. What else have we got?
God.
So this is one you wanted shouting out, mate.
What's this one?
MS Paints.
Dave, and he's converting a fucking Buzz Lightyear toy into a Stargrave fucking ship.
Yeah.
Dave, fucking hats off to you on this content. It's amazing the effort he went to, and the fact that it's a toy, but when it's finished, it doesn't look like a toy at all. It's insane. I know he's done hobby die hard mode because he's put bloody LEDs in it and everything else, and that's a step too far for you.
Yeah, I
But
mean, to be fair as well, all the wiring and the faffing about with the LEDs, I mean, he gets it to work, but these bloody cables laying all around the inside side of it, it's too much for me. But it's, and again, it's filmed with Dave's usual panache. It's a great video.
and a
Crispin,
genuine inspiration for those that
Crispin did a toy heli. I think I did actually. Yes, I have seen photos of that Crispin, because that one's not ridiculously big, is it? It's big, but it's not like your current size.
it's not the size
insanity.
of your fucking living room.
Yeah.
Sorry, did I say that out loud, Crispin?
Yeah.
Love you, dude.
But yeah, I mean, it's great to see somebody taking what are cheap plastic mass-produced toys, and like Dave says in the video, they've obviously Disney have had a massive miss with the film, and the toys are all in. They're available for cheap in bargain bins everywhere. So if you fancy a hobby,
buying them for Stargrave.
Yeah, if you fancy a hobby project, fill your boots. But yeah, interesting, very good. One last thing, David sent me this link just before we came on. It was earlier today, actually, I think. So this is some sort of blog, the Wargame Explorer.
This came up on my Google For You feed.
Okay.
You might be interested in this article, and give it a quick skim read.
Yep.
But I just thought it's a relatively recent article, isn't it?
Do you know what? March 25th.
Yeah.
So literally the last few days. Because occasionally
some of the stuff in the Google For You feed is several years old.
Yeah, no, this is recent.
But it is worth pointing out that, yeah, you may not intend to be that guy in the hobby circle, but occasionally it can come across that way.
Yeah, I mean...
So don't be that guy.
It's great. Obviously, I read it in full. And it's a good little article. Well worth your time. And like David says, it's always worth reading this sort of thing, because you never know when you might have developed bad habits yourself. Me, the mea culpa for me is if I'm playing, and this happened to me, my most recent experience with this was 9th edition 40k. I've got issues with 9th edition 40k, and I went into the game with preconceptions. The game turned out exactly like I expected it to, and if I'm honest and I reflect upon it, I didn't attempt to mask my contempt in respect for my opponent, who is a massive fan. And do you know what? It's about the other person. It is always about the other person.
It's a social hobby.
Yeah.
Be fucking social.
Yeah. So, like I say, these sort of things, there's often useful things that we can learn from watching these things. I'm going to shout out one other thing, because again, this came across my radar. I was just on the OTT Discord, and I saw a comment from I can't even remember the user's name now. Damn it. And I can't skip across to the Discord. You guys will know. Crispin and whatever will help us out. And Darren. There's a chap who's active on the OTT community. And he's the editor, and it seems pretty much the main writer of content for this. It's like a web-based magazine, a fanzine, if you like, called Irregular. And I saw it. I think he mentions it in his bio on his Discord profile, and I had a quick look, and this is fucking good. It's a really great little thing. It's all completely free. Obviously, he's got a pay what you want thing. I think somewhere on here. If you want to, reward the guy for his time, but it looks like it's quarterly. This is the spring edition, but there's loads of things in here. What really caught my eye? There's an article about Beck Me D&D, which is my favourite Dungeons and Dragons era, because obviously that's what I grew up with. But there's an article about the Battle Masters board game, again, for us old guys. But there is literally fucking everything in here. And I haven't even begun to dig into the past issues, see all the back issues here. But it's worth a look. Irregular-magazine.com. So go and check it out. I can't believe that I haven't come across this.
You haven't seen it until now.
No, because the thing is, it's such a good project. The artwork he's got is fantastic. The layout's really slick. It's ever so readable. It's just bloody good. And for nothing, for free. Oh, amazing. So I think, is it Jason, the guy's name? I can't forget. I forget. I won't download the PDF because my computer will spaz out. But yeah, check this out because it's brilliant. And if you can't find anything interesting in it, I'll be bloody shocked. Warhammer Grimace. Thank you, Darren. Yes. There is, there? Right. Okay. So there you go. He's got a YouTube channel as well. I'm going to have to check that out, Darren. I mean, I must confess, box openings and reviews and that sort of thing, I don't indulge myself a lot. But nostalgic content and that sort of thing, all over that shit. Being a man of a certain age. Be interested to see what his podcasts are about as well. Because I think, I mean, the vibe I get from Warhammer Grimace is he likes his historicals. But as I say, I've only just started dipping my toe in, so I don't know. So yeah, I think we've covered all that, and it's nearly 10 to 9, which I knew would happen.
The only thing we need to talk about is what we did at club this week.
Oh, Christ, we missed that out because we went straight into the news, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Sorry for all those that were expecting that early on.
Yes.
But we'll do it now.
Just let me find something because I want to have this on screen.
Dude.
Yep.
I have got a colour for you, my sir. Have I got a fucking colour for you? Let me see. Where's my video ninja? Oh, my video ninja's disappeared. Oh, I'll add that back up again. I'll sort that fucker out. Turn the audio fucking off. There we go. Would you like to come down to the desk?
Just bear with me a second. I'm just trying to find something in this article that it was this one. Yeah. Okay. So that's on screen. Let's go back to here. So you want your video ninja. Are you ready?
Yes. Yeah, I'm ready.
There you go. Ooh, that's nice.
That is snake green.
Okay, I might be colourblind because it looks blue, but
it is a greeny blue. It's a tealy colour, really.
Yeah, very much so.
Question for all the boys and girls at home. Yellow or orange scales here?
They would look better beige, but obviously you're limited by the paints you've got.
Yes. I don't have a beige... Well, I do have a beige speed paint. I have...
a contrast.
That kind of beige.
That's what I would use. And I think that would contrast with it beautifully.
Skeleton Horde it is, then.
Yeah, that's what I would have said as a plan B. Yellow, Darren says, because obviously blue-yellow is a classic combo, but it depends how intense the yellow is. If it's like as vibrant as the other colours, that could be too much.
Well, there is. Sorry, that's my fault, boys and girls at home. There is Imperial Yellow, Nuclear Yellow, Martian Orange.
Does any of them look? I suppose it's difficult to tell whether they're muted or not. Do they have the colour? Do they have the colour swatch?
There is a colour chip I've been using, courtesy of our favourite guy on the internet, Juan Hidalgo.
Oh, okay. He's got a swatch, has he?
Yes, he has. So Imperial Yellow is quite bright. Nuclear Yellow is slightly more orange and muted. Then Martian Orange is very intense and Dayglow Orange.
Maybe the middle one.
Maybe
if it's muted enough. If you want to stay with the express colour experiment, I think you should just use that bone one.
Yeah, the skeleton horde.
I think you should just mix. I think you should cross the streams and see what wizardry ensues.
I don't have brain matter beige.
That's an army painter one, isn't it?
Yes.
That gets a lot. Pale grey. That's a good call. Yeah, that is a good call. That would give it a real winter worm look. I don't know what sort of creature it is.
It's a sea serpent.
Actually, that makes sense because that's coming from Orinoco. I tell you what, if it's a sea creature, some sort of like pale green, almost, a yellow green would work quite well, and it would give you that real aquatic look, wouldn't it? Staying in the blue-green thing.
Where the fuck did my... Oh, Gulliman Flesh is on the table.
Darren's going off-piste. Darren's going into classic...
This is unfortunately, Darren, a speed paint only zone because there's 130 miniatures to do between now and June.
Yeah, he's under pressure, Darren. When we're not going multiple layers and highlights and washes and colours, it's like we want one and done at this point, which is not a bad thing
for me.
And to be fair, we should be encouraging David to explore this avenue because you've mastered painting on hard mode, haven't you, mate?
Yes.
You do that all the time.
I will say this is another point to the contrast corner. Is the pot. It is way more accessible than a fucking dropper bottle.
Yeah. Having used the contrast for the first time when you came round to my house the other night, I do agree. If the Games Workshop much maligned paint container does have a role, it is in express colour type products. Oh, talking of which, I tell you what, let's go back to this.
Reactivation, boys and girls.
Well, it's because it's not dry, mate.
No, the bit I'm on is dried.
Yeah, no, it's not. And as I say, those express colour do notoriously have a huge dry time, but it's by design so that because as Orinoco says, they're designed to be wet blended, so they stay fluid and mobile for ages. Just a bonus ball. This is the other thing that made me think he wasn't in the UK.
Orinoco, I can't even wet blend with normal paint, let alone fucking more liquid paint than normal. Jesus.
This is what made me think this guy was not in the UK.
What, Sonic?
Yes. When Sonic was doing this Vallejo Express thing, he goes on about working in a very hot climate and how these speed paint products in general dry out extremely rapidly when you put them on a hard palette. And he says, he gave a brilliant tip. So basically what he's got is got a shallow soup bowl filled with cold water, and then he puts his plastic pallet in the top so that each of these wells is submerged in water and creates like a cooled well. And I watched this, I was like, mind blown.
How the fuck did we never think of that before?
That is fucking genius. And I will definitely
last year when
be doing
it was 40 odd degrees and we were all struggling to paint.
Yeah, to be fair, that I never looked at that, whether it was filmed in... No, it's 8 days ago. I suppose he doesn't necessarily mean he filmed it 8 days ago. He could have filmed it bloody month, like 6 months ago. But, yeah.
Dreams have been crossed.
That is an absolute genius idea. Well done, that man. I love little hacks like that.
Well, ain't you fucking handy, computer? Why have you turned off? Whatever.
David's been having some technology issues, peeps. He was having them before he came on, and it looks like he might still be having them even now. So,
it's 9 o'clock almost.
I know. I was thinking that.
Shall we main topic o'clock?
Yeah, and do you know what? Before we get into this, I'm very much, very much leaning on the guys in the chat for this, because I think the problem with this topic is you need a lot of voices in the conversation for it to be a fair and balanced conversation. Because,
well, again, this is something we
don't
see eye to eye on.
Let's set the
scene.
This
is something we don't see eye to eye on.
No,
isn't it?
Well, again, this is why I thought it would be a good topic. You see,
no, I'm just saying we're setting the scene, the background.
So, in tabletop wargaming, certainly, it's less of an issue in board gaming where people take it for granted. But in tabletop wargaming, there is this... All the miniatures that we acquire come bare. Sometimes unassembled, sometimes not. Darren, one-piece metal sculpts. So they'll be made out of metal, resin, hard plastic. They require a significant amount of time normally to prepare them before they're even ready to be put on the table and played with and called a miniature. And the amount of time that you have to invest in that process also includes a proportion of time painting those models to get them ready for game. And it's one of those things that people in the wargaming hobby often will have an opinion on whether models need to be painted to be played with, or whether they don't, and it doesn't matter. And it's one of those things, it can be a bit of a Marmite job, can't it?
Yes.
So, I think the first thing to say is, what we've already said really, is it's a very individual thing. But let's talk about some of the factors that go into the decision. And before we start with what we think and give you guys a chance to say what you think, although Crispin's already always Orinoco, yes, no, maybe, sometimes.
Only on Tuesdays.
Yeah. Let's go back to this, because this article, oddly enough, that we talked about earlier. So this is the article we were talking about earlier. And if you notice here, under the category of be prepared for your game, we have, first and foremost, it's important to have your army assembled and painted. This not only helps to create a more immersive and enjoyable gaming experience, but also shows that you have put effort into your hobby. Okay. So
shots have been fired from the website's article there.
Shots are fired. Now,
shots off the starboard bow.
That raises. I also, if you're demoing a game, always painted period. Correct. Okay. So, what factors come into this? Okay. Let me tell you where I am, and
we'll get your 2 cents on the matter.
I'll explain the factors that have led to my decision, and then David can explain more about his decision and maybe list some of the factors that I haven't accounted for. So, I'm 51. I have been playing miniature war games since I was 16, 15. So a very, very, very long time. For a lot of time, I played with miniatures that were primed, partially assembled, whatever. I've reached a time of my life where I have put the pressure on me. So I have put the pressure on me to no longer do that. For me, I make it like a personal goal that when I put stuff on the table, it's done. Do I always deliver? No. I have failed to get miniatures finished for a game I've got scheduled, and rather than cancel and pull the rug out from my opponent, I've swallowed my pride and done it. But I always beat myself up about it. For me, as well as the element of putting that pressure on myself to deliver on something, on a goal I've almost set myself, there's also, I have a big, for me, the immersion and the respect for my opponent that's mentioned in that article. That's, for me, that's right up there. Okay. If I've got a game scheduled with somebody, I may not. Orinoco's mentioned blue tack. David will mention blue tack, and if he doesn't, I'll pick him up on it.
I'll have you know I've not used blue tack for 18 months, right. You bitch.
If I've got a game scheduled with somebody, I may not know what that person is bringing to the table, but in case that person is fully painted, fully finished, and we're not talking, again, we'll come to that in
Golden Demon standard.
We're not.
Paint.
If they're finished, painted, ready to play, tabletop ready is the colloquial term. I don't know that that's not going to happen, and I'm not going to be the one who breaks that, pact or agreement, and potentially worsens the play experience for that other person. So those are the main reasons why I would say stuff should be painted, tabletop standard, whatever.
I'm going to come in with my 2 cents now.
Go on, mate. What do you think?
Because I'm a painter, not a gamer.
Right.
And because I paint to a certain standard.
Yep.
I will play games with primed minis. I will play games with grey minis. I will play games with blue tacked minis on bases. I will play games with unpainted shit to get people in. Do you know what I mean? And then work on it as a project, as a whole, as a collective. For me, I'm trying to get away from that, and particularly this year, of just say fuck it and stop painting on hard mode. It took me probably 30 hours, if not longer, to do 5 brutes for my Iron Jaws army. That is 5 of 48 minis. What the fuck? Put the brush down, speed up. Yeah. And that is really where I'm going with this spring clean project. Again, the League of Infamy is a board game. They are not as detailed. They are not as insane as an army project, paints-wise. It's very batch painty, it's very samey. But they'll take contrast fucking amazingly. So, let's start getting paint down. Let's start going through this, because I've played League of Infamy twice. I played it once with completely just grey plastic soon after I'd bought it.
Yep.
And then played another game where I started painting some stuff, but then didn't get around to finishing it in time because of the time pressures and constraints on the game. I am saying, fuck that no more. When we play, we will be playing with painted shit.
Yeah.
Even if it is just base coated like my little fucking crab boys here that are just orange over a black white zenithal. But there's enough detail on them that you could read them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you make a couple of good points there, which we should explore. But can I just ask, just to clarify, are you making this commitment because you want to give the people who you are inviting to a game with your toys the best experience you can give them? Or
no,
is it you're just doing it to kick yourself in the ass?
Yes. Because for me, yes, it is a complete and a fucking polar different experience to play with fully painted miniatures, fully painted terrain, everything else. But again, we go back to DZC table. It's 4-foot terrain. I fucking must have spent 35, 40 hours just building the cunt and what's it called? Sealing it.
Yeah. I was going to say MDF is not an insignificant job to get that table ready. Like you say, assembly, sealing, priming, painting, washing. They can be hellishly difficult to get
insane.
Texture onto.
Painting DZC minis, absolute breeze, because it's just airbrushed done.
And they're so heavily textured, they paint themselves with really simple techniques, don't they?
Yeah, when you stick 10mm Digicams camo stickers all over them.
Well, that's
Hi, guys.
though, isn't it?
Yeah. But again, it's fine, because then they get a gloss varnish, they get a oil wash, they get a dulling down, and they're done. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
Done. In the grand scheme of things, to paint a 500 point army, it took me 2 days of a weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. Because there's like 20 minis to paint, and they're all about the size of a postage stamp. The only thing I haven't painted out of them is the troops, because they're an absolute nightmare to paint because they're 10mm scale. But the point stands of let's get on with it. Let's get stuff painted.
Yeah.
Because.
But again, that's an interesting thing to talk about.
For me,
because obviously
the enjoyment of the game and the enjoyment of the game isn't necessarily the spectacle. Even though having a very nicely painted table and nicely painted miniatures is part of why I paint.
Yeah.
Actually, for me, I'd rather play an opponent that I enjoy playing with, that I vibe well with, or it's a fucking learning experience for both of us. For example, with Necromunda.
Yeah.
Just vibing with the rules and getting to know stuff. And again, Necromunda, when I did my first game this year, beginning of this year, I was so annoyed that I didn't quite get finished. Do you know what I mean?
You were so close.
So close to painting the entire army in the time frame I'd given myself. And I think when we worked it out on average, it was about an hour and a half, 2 hours a mini.
Yeah.
Like, insane for me, going from spending 8 hours on a mini to less than 2.
Yeah.
And still getting results that I'm happy with, and still getting results that lads at club are coming up to me and going, Jesus, they're nice. It's that side of it for me is why I paint, is why I play games, is why I put myself out there with spending ages on a miniature to get those compliments back longer term. Whereas for you, it's very much playing first, and painting and completing is a goal obviously you have held in your head for having a decent game. But again, similarly, you quite enjoy the gaming aspect of things because, like you already said earlier, you don't shoot yourself in the foot and say, oh, well, I'm not fucking gaming this week because I've not done my stuff. Do you know what I mean?
No, not at all. And for me, like you've just said, I'm a gamer first, and having the stuff ready to play with, obviously it's a prerequisite of playing, but all I've done is moved where that is. Whereas it may have been, well, as long as they're put together, then that's fine. Now they want to be painted, fully painted, based, done, varnish on. I'm not touching these after this.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I was going to say, it's interesting to hear you talk because it's like you've got two elements to that. You've got like you've changed your approach to painting, and that's led to you having a better opportunity to get the fully painted experience delivered.
Yes.
And what I was going to ask to you is, because obviously historically we talked about your iron jaws, they were blue tacked onto bases and blue tacked together because they're easier to paint when they're not glued together. So that there was logic to that. It wasn't laziness, it was deliberate to facilitate the painting process. So which is the chicken, which is the egg? Have you changed your painting painting style because of the gaming, or were you going to change your painting style anyway? And a nice payoff is it means that which is it?
I don't really know.
Or is
the
it a
reason
bit
I say
both?
that is because I've currently got bloody 12 Amazon Blood Bowl women staring at me.
Yeah.
That I've fucking stupidly glued to their bases with super glue. Which now means that getting in to do their skin tones justice is going to be an absolute nightmare, and I'm regretting life decisions sat in that Chinese container in front of me.
Right.
But this is the thing, right? 12 mini Blood Bowl team, I'm not going to bring that to the table and play with it until I've painted it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to be that guy.
Okay.
He says that while suddenly remembering that his Skaven team's still not finished, but we'll gloss over that subject matter. So that is not too bad for me. Little skirmish games, again, I say that and then I immediately have bloody ADHD throwback memories of Frostgrave, because my entire Frostgrave warband's not finished yet. This is the other problem for me. Night, Darren. It's because I'm such a gadfly with what I do and what I play, I'm all over the shop. I go from sci-fi to Blood Bowl to fantasy to terrain. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I do not stay on a project for more than like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I've also just found something out about Express Colour.
Right. Go on.
They split like that bloody green that we had on stream the other week.
Okay.
So, not a criticism of Vallejo necessarily, because, again, most paints when they sit there for a while will split.
Have you got them on a wet palette?
No, No, in the bottle. If we want
Oh,
to
I
come
see
down
what
to
you
my
mean.
camera.
Okay, hang on. Let me. So that you're talking about the settling.
Yeah.
Let me bring you up. Okay. Oh, I see what you mean. Heck, there's quite a bit of sediment there. Is that? Have they got agitators?
No.
Oh. Okay. Potential knock against. You'll have to let us know how easy it is to get that resuspended.
Again, here you go. Here's another one. Look at the
Right.
difference between the top of the bottle and the bottom of the bottle.
Okay.
In colour.
But how easy is it to remix them? I mean, settling paint is not an uncommon problem, is it?
It depends. Because again, we're talking about shaping something that's not got an agitator. So it's going to take twice as long as putting a bloody agitator in it. Do you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, but you're doing the experiment live. We're watching it live. So how are you getting on? Have you resuspended that, or is it not working?
Well, we'll start now and we'll see.
This is thrilling TV, people.
Thrilling live stream right here.
We're watching it happen. Because I'll be honest,
literally watching paint mix.
I'm going to say this now. I've never encountered this with any of the Gen 1 speed paints. None of them separated or split. I don't know how they did it.
Just thrown it across the room and it's still split.
I don't know how they did it, which pigments they used.
I think some of theirs is to do with the fact that it's gel.
Yeah, I mean...
The contrast and this Express are actually quite watery. It's getting there after about a minute.
But it's still not gone all the way.
No.
See, this is the other drawback. At least with that god-awful Games Workshop one that we had a problem with on that Saturday night, we could pop the lid and give it a good old stir.
Drop in 2 or 3 agitators or get a bloody coffee stirrer in
yeah,
there,
we got to give it a good old stir, give the job a hand. You're not going to do that with a dropper bottle, are you?
No.
Shit. Okay, interesting. I want to call back something Crispin's put here. So because of Ben...
Orinoco, mess on the desk again. I've just thrown stuff across the desk. My desk is always messy.
Crispin's put here, he says always painted while never painting, which means he doesn't play anything. This is sort of the trap that I've ended up in, Crispin. I've got the Mansions of Madness board game, and obviously I am a massive Arkham horror fan. I love the Arkham Files games. I haven't played it yet, simply because I won't play it until I have painted all of the miniatures in the board game. And that's a board game. Okay? So, it's starting to get like that for me.
I think you need to take... I know what you're saying, and about making it the best experience you can for people.
Yep.
But counterpoint is, if we play a Mansions of Madness, let's be brutally honest, it's probably going to be, for example, me, you, and Dan, and we absolutely love the Arkham games and the Arkham series and the lore and everything behind it. Anyway.
Yep.
I don't think whether the minis are painted or not is going to make a difference to the enjoyment of our gameplay.
You might be right.
Because the other thing with Mansions, there is so much other shit going on. There's the app. There's fucking tons.
Yeah.
And I think you want to stop holding yourself over a barrel for it, because A, it's a fucking board game.
Yes.
Not a miniatures game.
Yeah.
And B, it's not even a miniatures or a board game like Nemesis, for example, where, okay, it would actually make it look even better than it already looks.
Yep.
To get them painted, it's just like, yeah, no, okay, that's just setting the scene slightly better. It's like, yeah, no, just accept it, Paul, and play it for what it is, which is an Arkham game that we're all going to fucking love. and we're all going to rave about afterwards.
I totally accept that, like you say, beating myself up over a board game is probably a step too far.
No, I know. I'm just again speaking my voice on stream.
No, I mean, and I'm not saying you're wrong, to be fair, because, like you say,
I mean, again, look
which is the bigger crime? Spend £100 on a board game and then never get any joy out of it because of an obstacle in your way that's effectively self-imposed, or play that board game but play it with unpainted minis. You know, when you put it in those terms, it does rather shine a light on it. Something else that feeds into this painted or not argument is identifying models on the table.
Yes, if that's that is the thing.
I do think this is a factor.
Blood Bowl's a prime example.
It is a good example, yeah.
Take a little time, stick a bloody decal on it with a number. Even if your paperwork next door to it has the number to tell you what each miniature is, and you have to sit there and look at the miniature to then get the number to then look it up on a cross-reference chart, it's worth it. I mean, I did that with my Necromunda. I named all my Necromunda miniatures individually, and then the sheet that I had for the list is just got the name on it next door to it with Joe Bloggs has got X and Sally's got Y.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
I mean, another game where I think this could be a fact, because again, it is fair to say that this is a bigger issue with some games than others. You know, there are probably games where the models are significantly different enough.
Again, Infinity's one of those, actually.
That was exactly the game I was going to say.
You can tell the difference between a Facade and a Ghoulam.
Yeah.
But you can't tell the difference between a Ghoulam Paramedic and a Ghoulam Doctor 3+, or a Ghoulam Hacker. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Without prescribing in your head, okay, well, the Paramedic, for example, on the Club Starter set's got white painted shoulder pads, and the Hacker we've said is the guy with the boarding knife in his hands.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But also, I think it does go broader than that. I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, you can probably tell a heavy infantry from a light infantry, but there are so many miniature profiles and miniatures in Infinity, and to be fair to the designers, to be fair to Corvus Belli, the artistic design is so tight on that miniatures range that actually when models are all slapped down, bare metal, unpainted, there can be a fucking problem to tell one from another, particularly for your opponent who may not know what your models are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the other problem is, although you might say to your opponent, okay, that's a Zyakotsu, that's a Domaru, they're
not going to remember by turn 2.
No, because after you've shuffled them all about, like playing Find the Bloody P.
Where's Wally?
Yeah, then they're like, hang on, they're all just silver miniatures to me. What was that? It's like...
Well, I'm not being funny. Even if they're painted, right? Even if they're painted, and they're painted as a unit and an army scheme, it's still fucking hard to tell.
That is very true. And that is a good pushback, because sometimes you're right. If you don't think about that sort of barrier to play, even when you get fully painted, you may not solve or help the problem at all.
No, you might actually make it worse.
Well, yeah. And that is very fair. And is potentially...
Again, the hard counter to that is, for example, fucking GW minis. My God. Brimstones, pink horrors, and blue horrors are a prime example here. They're all relatively similar. They're all sculpted relatively the same. But this is GW, so there's enough of a difference between all of them that you can actually tell what the fuck's going on.
Yeah. I mean, they're on different size bases. To be fair to Games Workshop, they do have even factions. Say
Space Marines, even as Assault Space Marine versus a Firstborn Space Marine, you could pretty easily tell the difference.
Yeah, and even all the new Primaris guys, a lot of them have quite unique weapon loadouts that you can pick them apart.
And you can identify them from across the table.
Yeah. I mean, again, the scale of the game matters. If you've only got 5 models on the board, it's easy for your opponent to track what they are. If you've got 60 or 70 packed onto a 3x3, because again, I think this is more of an issue generally for your opponent than for you.
Yes.
If you've bought the models, if you've lovingly slaved over the army list, you probably know what everything is. You could probably identify the models by touch alone. But it's not just about you. It's about the person that you're playing against.
And again, it kind of still links to that article that we've said about, like, my DZC is a prime example. Everything is painted the same. Digicam. And everything to the untrained UCMI looks fucking identical, because actually to tell the difference between a rapier anti-air and a saber anti-tank is literally the weapon that is fitted to the chassis.
Yeah, okay.
So therefore is a tiny 5mm difference on a 25mm mini at 10mm scale that's 4 foot away from you because it's on the other side of the table. Do you see my point here?
I do, very much. So I tell you what I was thinking about. When Epic was a thing for 40k, and it never occurred to me at the time, Epic is one of the first games I can think of that used coloured plastics.
Yes.
So, like, nothing in Epic was GW's classic slate grey plastic. It was all coloured. So the orcs were all green, the squats were all beige, the marines were all blue. But when you've got 6mm miniatures on a because they're all mounted the same, 5-6mm infantry miniatures on a 25mm square, and without paint, if they're all grey, you're not going to tell an orc base from a marine base when things get spicy. You could probably tell the vehicles apart, but you're never going to tell the fucking infantry apart in a month of Sundays. And obviously they must have thought of that, hence the coloured plastics.
Yeah.
Which, again, to be fair, a lot of board game companies do that, though. It's the same,
even DEI, Divided Impera, has different coloured plastics.
Yeah, that was obvious in that video. They would use bright primary colours.
Underworlds.
Yeah. That's Games Workshop again. Because, I mean, probably they think it's a board game. Maybe people will do this game but not be as engaged in the hobby aspect. So, like you say, we need to make this playable out of the box. The blue minis are yours, the red minis are your opponents.
Yeah.
Having said that,
they take completely the opposite approach with Warcry.
Well, I'll be honest, even when mine are fully painted, I sometimes struggle to tell the models. I mean, you
struggle to tell the models apart in the warband.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about that battle report we filmed, and I managed to mix up 2 of those Stormcast Eternals. I completely got the model, because they're basically exactly the same model, but one's got the sword in the left hand and the staff in the right, and the other's right
way
in the
about.
staff in the left and sword in the right, but essentially the same model other than that. And obviously, like a dolt, I didn't really distinguish them clearly with paint.
Yeah, but again, it's not like you did that for advantage.
No, I did it because I'm an idiot.
Yeah, you're just old and your eyesight's failing.
What other factors feed into this? Come on, guys, in the chat.
Time on a project.
Time is huge.
Again, how regularly you're playing a game, right?
Yeah.
For example, my DZC UCM fucking painted because I wanted to get people interested in Drop Zone. And lo and behold, I did. Because I got my table, and okay, my table was MDF. But that with some painted factions actually set the scene really quite well, didn't it?
Yep.
Counterpoint, I still have currently sat across my desk from me unpainted Menoth minis from War Machine.
God, yeah.
Because, or primed Menoth minis, sorry, from War Machine. Because the last time I played War Machine was before you went to Scotland in 2020.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the frequency at which you play a game is a factor, and it can go one of two ways there, can't it? Because, okay, if you only play once a year, you've got tons of time to get everything painted.
So long as you're not a hobby mayfly.
Well, yeah. But there can be the other side of it. You know, you're a young dad in your late 20s. You've got 2 children under 10. You know, you might have a busy full-time job. You've got other things to do than paint models.
Your only night of respite a week might be the night you come to the club to play the games.
And just to clarify, Orinoco, you have not played those games because you haven't got the models ready. There have been opportunities you've either turned down or played other things because that's not where you want to be with it. Feel that pain if that's the case. Yeah, time is a massive one. I don't think money is, because obviously the initial outlay of the models is often the biggest cost.
Yes.
Would you agree?
And no. Yes and no.
And you don't need to spend a fortune. You don't need 50 paints and an airbrush.
Let's go from the start here. If you're painting an Ultramarines army, go buy yourself some Colourforge fucking primer. Buy yourself a wash. Buy yourself the colours that you need to do the details. And call it tabletop ready. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you could...
So, comparatively, the outlay for that versus the outlay for 1,000 points of Ultramarines is a night and day difference.
Yes.
The outlay on the paints for a 10-man Frostgrave warband that are all unique sculpts versus the Frostgrave warband is probably pretty fucking similar.
That's true. You're probably £2 a mini and probably £2 to £3 a paint. So, yeah, that is fair. I suppose what you're painting...
The economies of scale and what you're painting has a massive input, doesn't it?
Yeah. Although that only probably applies when you're very first starting. I mean, I'm thinking about Trevor here at Club. He's literally walking into the hobby side of things with nothing, isn't he? He doesn't have any resources.
Yeah.
So for him, like, everything's got to be got. Everything from brushes to paints, it's all got to be bought. So, like you say, he's in at the ground floor. Which hopefully is a situation you don't repeat more than once, but it is a thing to bear in mind. And again, it's because ultimately, I think the purpose for us having this conversation is that everybody's going to find their own position.
Got individual taste.
Yeah, everybody's going to find their own what works, what they're willing to do and what they're not willing to do. But the purpose of the conversation really is to just things to think about. You know, maybe there's a reason your opponent is where they are. Maybe there's a reason.
The advent of these one and done products, I think, is brilliant for the hobby.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Again, we've mentioned Trevor once already. We'll mention him again. The night and day difference between just base coats and base coats and a wash. Not even highlights, base coats and a wash.
Yeah.
For pulling detail out. Everybody has to start somewhere. And again, this is the other thing. If somebody's bought into 40k, bought all the minis, built all the minis, to play the game, if they're working on the project at whatever pace they're working on the project at for painting it, it's not to be knocked.
No.
Do you know what I mean? If they come to the table with a half grey army because they're painting minis and they only get one night a week to paint or one night a month to paint,
yeah,
it's not to be knocked.
No. Everybody, I suppose, everybody's going to have their own rate of progress based on their experience and their life.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like you say, just, you know,
roll with it.
Think about what that person's probably doing the best they can, I guess, is the way to think about it.
Again, look at me in Assassin's Creed. I'm not playing it at the moment.
No.
So I'm not painting it.
No.
But when I do want to play games with it and it be painted. Speaking of which, I've lost Ezio.
Oh, God.
Ezio go.
What other factors have we got?
Oh, I found him. He's hiding.
Have you guys got anything to chip in with? Anything that we've missed?
Again, it was said on fucking Monday at club with all that scatter on the table, right?
Yep.
We've played Gaslands games with scatter, and it's just 3D printed or base primed. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's looked good. But painting that scatter isn't a priority when you've got an army to paint. It isn't a priority when you've got a load of buildings to paint as well. Painting that scatter as the final fucking icing on the cake, worth every penny.
You see, I would push back and say I definitely enjoy games less when the terrain isn't painted, and I get less enthusiastic about them.
Yeah.
But I do also agree with you. If I've got my biggest weakness is painting terrain. If I've got anything to paint other than terrain, I'll probably paint it.
You'll paint it, yeah.
So I totally get it, but for me it just adds so much to the gaming experience that it needs to be acknowledged, sort of thing. I mean, with this in mind, I can probably put this. I don't know if this will work now.
We'll see.
I had trouble doing slideshows before. Right.
You're not as pasty as I thought you were, but okay.
So we haven't done it, so let's do it now. On Monday, funnily enough, I wanted to make a thing of this, and I've ended up not doing because of opportunity. So on Monday, I played another game of Firefight, which is, I've lost count, 4th game, I think. And I played.
You've been playing it pretty much once a month, haven't you?
Yeah. I played my Forge Fathers against Ricky's Enforcers. And the game was fully painted. Terrain and miniatures. And the interiors of the buildings weren't painted, but to be fair, Ricky took the roofs off because we were playing them with models in as objectives. So he hadn't really planned for that, but that's fair enough. But the table looked fucking great. And and to play, for me, this game was amazing. I mean, not only was it a brilliant game from the game side of it, it was a draw. It was super tense. It literally came down to the last activation of the last turn of the game. Oh my!
Oh, and the MDF containers he nabbed from me.
God, it was a knife edge, but it was a fantastic game. And you know, when the terrain, because again, you can tell there isn't a huge amount of work here. Well, base coats, dry brushes, the terrain crates, and that I've got like probably a base coat dry brush or base coat wash. It's not a huge amount of time gone into it, but the game just pops, absolutely pops. And for me, it definitely elevates the whole gaming experience. To have that painted experience. Yeah, that is a fair point. Orinoco says that people say, oh, paint skirmish games because they're quicker and there's less. Often the terrain requirements are
so unique. Again, Frostgrave, you paint the only way you can cheat that is if you paint in a Mordheim board as well, for example, at the same time.
I mean, that is a brilliant point, in fact, Orinoco, because if you think about a game like Kings of War or Warhammer Fantasy Battles, those are the two rank and flank block games. I haven't done any true historicals or pike and shot or anything like that. But I mean, those massed block troop games, you have hardly any terrain. Because, frankly, terrain is a problem because you need so much room to maneuver units, set up flank charges, just get everything. Because positioning's a huge part of the game, you start loading the terrain on, it breaks up the play experience. So it's exactly what Orinoco said. Yes, I have got to paint 200 models, but I don't have to paint a load of buildings, crates, barrels, hedges, whatever. You know, I might have to do a hill and a forest, you know, for my whole gaming table. So it's a very good point. You know, your 10 miniatures aside is fine, but what about that 4 foot by 4 foot border terrain? Although there are, again, pre-painted options are getting more and more common if you've got the money, because you definitely pay a premium for that. Definitely pay a premium for it.
Or you do like we've done at Club before and pay for commission terrain.
But even then, you're still paying a premium because you're just paying somebody else.
Exactly.
You know, you're paying somebody else to do it. You know, you don't get any free passes. I mean, so we've discussed readability. We've discussed immersion. Considering your opponent. I mean, I suppose we haven't discussed immersion in depth, because there is this argument. Not only is it respectful of your opponent to be fully painted, not only does it help the readability of your army
and everything else,
and able to identify what it is, but there are genuinely, and I suppose that's what I was intimating when I was saying about there's that X factor. When everything is ready and spot on, it adds that little panache. And actually, if I think about it, what it is immersion. It puts you there in the moment on the table.
Yes, that is Very true and a very valid point, Paul.
And I suppose if you've not experienced it, you could easily forget about
Pass
it
it
or
by,
miss it.
yeah.
You know, if you've never played a game like that, I think it was maybe Crispin earlier said about, or Darren said about, if you're the advocate or if you're somebody who's running a demo game, it might have been Darren actually, then really you need to do it. It goes from being something that's optional to something that's compulsory. If you want to influence people's opinions, doing it with unpainted miniatures and scrappy looking terrain, you aren't helping your case, are you?
No, and again, it's like Armada.
That is a very good example. Yep.
That I painted for Club.
Yep.
I didn't spend a lot of time on those minis, but they looked fucking good for it.
Yep. And to be fair, that was probably your first just get it done job. Was it?
Yeah, Overdrive that nobody's played with.
Yeah, Overdrive. But then again, you and I should take it to the table. I think if we take it to the table, other people will latch onto it. Because again, that was a big factor with Armada. People stopped and looked at that and were like, "Oh,
Yes.
this looks good." You know? And it made your efforts paid off.
Were
Definitely.
appreciated.
Very much so.
I get more enjoyment out of playing with the painted army, even if my opponent's playing grey. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. You know, that comes down. That's that personal thing that I put myself under pressure to do that.
But again, this is the reason why sort of 2023, and I'm saying it now, is becoming my year of get shit done. Don't care about the results and cut corners that I usually wouldn't, just to get more of that experience of bringing painted stuff to the table.
Is it too early to say whether it's a good decision?
Probably.
We'll catch up with you later in the year.
We'll see after I buy Fallout and fucking speed paint that.
Well, I mean, what's the downside? That you paint something that you ultimately think, oh, I regret that. I mean, you mentioned it briefly with your Amazons, now that you've assembled it, and you're already thinking, ooh, I've made painting that fucking hard.
Yes.
I suppose that could be the thing that maybe moves your position. If you end up with a project that you're not entirely satisfied with.
Yeah, or a project stalls because I'm like, yeah, no, this is a twat to paint.
Yeah.
Because that is, again, my Menoth are all on bases based, fucking basing material on primed, and they're so fiddly to do, and I'm not playing it regularly. It's like, yeah, no, fuck that.
Okay. So the fact that you've got them to you've made painting them hard, it's demotivated you massively to do it.
Yeah. Alongside, obviously, the other contributing factor of I'm not playing the game, so.
Yeah.
Whereas I'd happily pick up a Blood Bowl team even if I've got no plans for it, just to paint it. Do you know what I mean? Because they're such nice characterful sculpts. I mean, look at my halfling team I did earlier last year.
Yeah.
And they were characterful. They were 3D prints. Okay, I didn't put the base material on because I made my own base ready. But it was a joy to paint those. Do you know what I mean, for the comp and
although you have played with them, you didn't have any plans to when you did that paint project, did you?
No. That was just painting comp and painting them for myself. Again, motivations. It's another thing that links in with all this.
Yeah, that is true. Some people might have the best of intentions, but might struggle to deliver. That is very true. Just because somebody's army looks a particular way doesn't mean that they want it to. It just means that they haven't.
Or again,
been
the
able
lad
to...
that's stripped and repainted his army 4 times because it's not quite up to what he thinks it should be.
Yeah. 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 I know
stripping's a dirty word around you.
Yeah, I mean, again, but it's because I'm not.
You're not that guy. You're not that kind of guy.
No, I don't want everything to be beautifully painted. I will compromise. I mean, ironically enough, going back to these Forge Fathers, this was a speed paint project. When I initially did it, I felt the miniatures were too dark and I wasn't very happy with the overall look. When I put them on the table the other day to play, I surprised myself by looking at them going, no, these are actually all right. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's something that can very much, it can go, you know, it can change with the wind.
That was your first foray into a full speed paint army, wasn't it?
It was,
and your first foray into just one and done. Not even like how you speed painted your Brits before with base coats and then a fucking liberal application of fucking dip because you're a heathen.
And then dry brushing back over. Because as you say, the only thing I'd speed painted before that was literally board game pieces. So it was my first speed paint army project. But like I say, I very much changed the way I feel having played with them the other day, and you know, I looked at them with new eyes, and I'm more than happy with the way it looks as an army and a project for the time that went into it, certainly. I don't know.
It's a controversial topic.
I think the problem, do you know what makes it controversial? I think there is an element of, if we're all honest, when that person's getting pissy and saying, well, it's just breaking my immersion, or the game just isn't as good when stuff's not painted. If we're honest, we all probably know how that feels.
I'm going to say a very controversial thing here.
Go on then.
You're painting with little plastic fucking miniatures. You're still in make-believe land. And this obviously comes from me being a miniature wargamer. It's just like, fuck's sake, grow up about when you get people like the absolute rivet counters of you can't have that in that unit because it never happened historically, for example.
And that's the wrong shade of green.
Yeah, you've used German field grey, and that's actually the late war colour, not the 1939 colour, for example. It's like, just fuck off. Well,
to be fair, though, that's another level, isn't it? I mean, Jesus, that's a whole new thing. Because, again, we talked about it with painting your army and not helping the readability and not helping the playability. Now you've got painting your army, but not meeting... I mean, quality of paint can come into this. You may call a project done. It may be technically fully painted. but you could still run into a situation where your opponent's like, that's a bit scruffy. Do you know what I mean? That's not very good.
You spent 50 hours on that project, and then it's like,
or like David said, well, they're the wrong shade of green. You know, fucking Prussians weren't that shade of green in the Napoleonic War. It's like, fucking.
No, but
and again, this is what makes this such a difficult conversation. To be fair, because there is an element of how much is enough for some people.
And again, how far is too far?
Like, that's the flip side of it, isn't it?
Somebody's comment that might be completely and utterly not ill-intentioned, well thought out and everything else, right? Completely upsets somebody.
Well, I mean, you can be technically right, but still be morally wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. And I'm sure that happens.
Shall we come down to my camera?
Yeah, let me get some paint on this. And then
let me get this boy at his best angle. Looks amazing. I've got
right, so we're going to your... Oh my god. I like... What do you think about the colour? Good choice?
I love it. I love this skeleton snake grey.
Yeah.
Green.
Yeah, that to me is a good combination. Because it looks very naturalistic.
So we did that tonight. This is Black Lotus, which is quite nice. There's a lot more so.
What's that, like a dark blue?
It's a black apparently, but it doesn't read anywhere near as black as
the thing on the hood
contrast one. Yes.
Okay.
The skin's just a normal paint and wash, mate. Then the other thing we've done tonight is we've used a nice brown on some dogs. Getting those guys ready. Then we come to the elephant in the room. White contrast paint and how it actually ends up. Which genuinely looks like I've put nothing on.
Yeah. But then again, I would say calm down, paint everything else,
and then make the decision.
Because remember, you primed it white. That subtle shading may sort of like jump out when you get some other colours to contrast on it.
That is Guilliman flesh from the contrast because it's just too good not to.
Okay, but the rest of it's Vallejo, is it?
No, all this is contrast of what I've been doing tonight, and then slap some skin tones down. Is the only Vallejo Express the worm? No, the white, the black hood, the brown on the dogs, and the worm.
Okay.
The worm green.
So, what's your takeaway on the Express colour from what you've seen, what you've done tonight?
So, fluidity, fucking amazing.
Okay, so you like the consistency, but is that because it's close to contrast, which is the thing that you're used to?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's close to contrast, so therefore I'm used to it and I enjoy using it.
Yep.
The drying time leaves a little to be desired.
So you're not necessarily a fan of the long drying time?
No. Again, it's a speed paint product. I'd like, if I've got 4 or 5 minis to do, to be able to base coat, say, 4 or 5 minis. By the time I'm on my last one, I should be able to go in with the next colour. Not have to go on to something else. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
I've not tried any dilution with them. They seem to be working all right over the zenithal that I've got going on, which is either a black white or a grey white, and they're producing enough shade. They're a bit more transparent. Again, when you compare the black Lotus in the bottle, is very black. It's not quite as black as the Black Templar, but it's similar in consistency to it.
Yeah.
And yet, when it comes out and it dries totally different.
Okay.
That is the other thing I will say about these Express Colour. When you're putting them on the model, they are way different to what they'll appear when they dry.
Right.
So the white is very fucking grey when you put it on, and it's like, oh, this is horrible. But actually, they've dried really nicely. That snake green is nowhere near that vibrant when you first put it down. It's fucking a lot darker and more muted, and then it dries way brighter.
That's that tealy colour.
Yeah, the brown is, well, it's there, wet still.
Yeah.
And yet it dries like that.
I've had to turn your. Hang on, let me put yours back on, mate. Right, show everybody at home.
So that's wet.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Wasteland brown. That's it dry.
Yeah, it's changed significantly.
Massively different.
Have a lot of the paints had that, where they look very different when they're dried?
Yes. Every single one of them so far. The white, the brown, the black, the snake green, all of them are completely different. At least with contrast, when I got this blue out of the pot, this Celestium blue, and put it on the Mini, it ended up exactly how it was.
Right.
So it's one of those things again. Vallejo, I know you've changed your bottles so that they're more transparent, but why the fuck did you put a black dropper cap on them? Because I can't now paint them over to get the colours on them.
Well, you can, but you've got to prime them white first.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, to be fair, I had to do with the Army Painter speed paints. Because they come with a stupid silver cap. And
yeah.
I basically had to paint them, prime them white, and then paint them over. Because obviously the silver just shows through and metallizes the scene.
Entire colour,
yeah.
It's impressions are they're nice. However, I'm unsure.
Okay.
Because again, getting hold of them, they don't do a big nice set like the Army Painter ones.
No, that is true. You have got to
buy them singly.
Did you see Orinoco's comment about putting the blacks over colours like that hobby hipster thing did that we showed last week?
Yeah, I mean, I can do. I just, again, we come back to that it's a speed paint. Let's get on with it.
I'll be honest, that's the obstacle for me. If it's painting everything twice. And that sort of defeats the object in my head.
Well, again, I wouldn't say everything needs painting twice, but I think, unfortunately, like all of the Express speedy products, there are ones that are absolutely knock out of the park. You'd fucking buy again and again and again. And then there's ones that you even need work. They even need dilution. They even need fucking 2 coats. They need something. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
I'm just looking at an Etsy on screen.
Yep, that's what I've got done. Just got a few browns down, trying to define the areas of the model. There's a lot of filigree.
There's a lot going on his fucking cummerbund, isn't there?
Yeah. I don't really know what to do. It's like the boots. Even the boots have got like a filigreed greave on the front.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether I'm going to do them metallic or what I'm going to do. He's got heel caps as well.
Yeah.
There's so many little details. I mean, the bloody bracers, they're almost like an inner bracer and an outer bracer. And then there's filigree detail on it. There's so much going on with these models. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. Anyway, we're up to 10 o'clock. Thank you very much for everybody who took part in the conversation in the chat. Feel free to join the conversation down below in the comments if you're catching us later on YouTube. If you are catching us,
2 cents.
If you are watching, and if you want to do something to help support us, please click like. It doesn't take a second, and it really does help with the YouTube algorithm. If you can find time to do any of the other things that are shown on screen, share, comment, or subscribe to the channel, please feel free to do that. But if nothing else, a like is enough. And we'll say good night and see you guys in a week.